Good morning, everyone. It is 8 o'clock, and it is Power Breakfast Friday. Yay, yay, yay. I know, yay. Thank you all for being here today. I'm Kira LaFond. I'm the market president and publisher of the Milwaukee Business Journal, and I got so excited to see you all in person that I started doing cartwheels, and that does not end well with a 50-something-year-old, not-so-limber lady. So I broke my fibula. I didn't really do it doing cartwheels. I was actually late to go out to dinner with my husband, took my dog out barefoot on a grassy, wet hill, and squirrel. She took off, and I fell. So 4 more weeks in this contraption, and thank you to Julia Taylor for allowing me to borrow her scooter. I want to thank Tiffany Corris, our event director, and all of the folks at the Pfister who gave me this lovely ramp. So we're so happy to be back in person. Nothing could stop us from bringing you guys together. And we're offering also a stream as well. Y'all can see Quinn back there. He's going to be sending this out on the internet, and we should have stream opportunities and capabilities for future events as well. We wouldn't be able to do this without Quinn and without Tiffany and the fabulous, again, Pfister staff that helped us put this together. So really appreciate you guys being here. I love seeing your faces. We are very lucky to have scientists and healthcare professionals who've been here for us every step of the way. I hope you all are vaccinated. And if you are not yet, I hope that you will reach out right after Power Breakfast to our pals at Ascension. I'm sure that they can help you out, right, Bernie? Where is Bernie at? You'll help get them vaccinated, right? They were the first ones to do mandatory vaccinations in the city for the hospitals, and I think I sent you a note the minute that came out on our wire, and I appreciate it. Thank you for helping us all stay safe. I'm excited to hear from our speaker today. Not only is Exact Sciences innovating the way to a healthier future for all of us, but they are an outstanding employer and supporter of health sciences. I was poking around on their website prior to the event, and I was delighted to see 4 fabulous women on their board of directors. Way to go, Kevin. Way to go, Exact Sciences. Setting an example for more women and more diversity in STEM fields will go a long way towards having all of the people that we need in these fields in the future. We will be hearing from Kevin in just a couple of minutes, but I'd like to thank our very supportive sponsors that helped make this event possible. First, I'm going to thank and acknowledge our longtime presenting sponsor, North Shore Bank, along with Ascension, Wisconsin, Delta Dental, Centivo Business Healthcare Group, and we'll hear from some of those later in the program. But let's hear it right now for Miller Brewing Company, returning as our Power Beer breakfast sponsor. You're going to please toast to Miller later with some of the Vizzy samples that they have left on your tables today. First, I'm going to welcome and just acknowledge Mike Cornell, Senior Lender and Vice President of our presenting sponsor, North Shore Bank. Mike. Mike brought along with him these beautiful North Shore cookies. They were baked by Matilda Bakehouse. So I think you were putting them out there all by yourself, weren't you? You put them on every single one of your plates. And now to share a few words with you from Ascension, Wisconsin, please welcome Senior Vice President Bernie Sherry. And I'll try to get out of your way.
Good morning. Great to see so many friends in the audience today. Nice being out. I'm excited for Kevin as well. Great friend and great company, and look forward to hearing Kevin speak today. Ascension, Wisconsin wants all our community to have great access to quality care. And what a better way than to do this through a partnership. So this year, Ascension is partnering up with the American Heart Association. In fact, I'll be chairing the 2022 campaign. And we're doing this so we can advance awareness and education and access to care and activate programs in the community that can have a profound impact on heart disease and those that are in our community today. They're impacted by heart disease and may not even know it. So our goal as leaders in this community is to align with partners and healthcare partners and associations like the American Heart Association to make a profound difference so we can reach those individuals that are vulnerable at this point in time. So I'm asking you today to join Ascension, to join me as the 2022 chair, to activate the Heart of Milwaukee campaign. We will be doing this for the entire year. And in February 12th, here at the Pfister, we will celebrate collectively what we've done in this community to reach out to raise money that will go directly to programs and research that will have a significant impact on the health of individuals in this community. And that happens through the generous giving of folks like you, your companies, and you as individuals. So I'm asking you to join me today. You can join my chairman's circle. If you're a company that wants to provide a gift at the $25,000 level, you can join my chairman's circle and through the entire year have access to VIP events and also access to Ascension Wisconsin executives as we look for ways to have a profound impact in our community. You can also do a roundup campaign. Our friends at Sendix have come alongside Ascension to do a retail roundup campaign that they'll activate in February, and we're proud that Sendix is joining this effort. Your company could do the same thing. And if you can't give as a corporation or company, then join me as an individual, provide an individual gift. And you can do this by texting Bernie, B-E-R-N-I-E, A-H-A, to 71777. Thank you for helping me and really helping our community live healthier. Thank you.
Thank you, Bernie. And now from one of our newest Power Breakfast sponsors, Centivo Business Healthcare Group, please welcome Executive Director, Business Healthcare Group, Jeffrey Cleaver.
Good morning and welcome. I'm the Executive Director of the Business Healthcare Group, the largest employer coalition in Wisconsin. And we are honored to be a co-sponsor, along with our strategic partner, Centivo, of the Milwaukee Business Journal Power Breakfast for 2021. BHCG is a coalition of committed leading Wisconsin employers who since 2003, have leveraged the purchasing power of our leading member employers. The formation of the Business Healthcare Group was initiated by the CEOs of major Wisconsin employers to address an incredibly pressing issue in 2003, and that was the continued unsustainability of healthcare costs. And this was led by Don Davis, who was the CEO of Rockwell, the chairman and CEO of Rockwell, and a who's who of other CEOs, once again, of major employers in southeast Wisconsin. Today, BHCG member employer representatives from companies such as Kohl's, Kohler, Baird, BMO, Associated Bank, Northwestern Mutual, Molson Coors, again, the Power Breakfast beer sponsor, and numerous others continue to collaborate using their experience and knowledge to increase healthcare value in our region. The Business Healthcare Group mission supports the ideal of responsible corporate citizenship for the state of Wisconsin and the communities in which our employers are located. So we are not only trying to solve the issue for the unsustainability of healthcare costs for our member employers, employees, and their dependents, but also those non-members who are located, once again, in those communities in which our member employers are located. We continue to work with strategic partners like Centivo, who, like BHCG, are willing to be both innovative and disruptive to bring quality and cost efficiency to the healthcare marketplace. Just like Exact Sciences, who has done the same thing with their leading role in earlier cancer detection to treatment and guidance. So together, BHCG and Centivo have reimagined healthcare by launching Wisconsin's first high-performance primary care-centered health plan solution. This has been developed through direct partnerships with health systems and providers, and I have a big thank you for Bernie Sherry and Ascension. Ascension is in all 3 of the network configurations that Centivo has in place, and we're very excited to be partnering with, once again, Bernie and his executive team and all of the supporting providers within Ascension. The plan offers a much more effective use of financial resources with predictable cost and an improved healthcare experience. In closing, the business community and BHCG are striving to make Wisconsin a great place to do business, and excellent cost-effective healthcare is a key element of that desired outcome. So thank you. And then from a full transparency standpoint, Kevin, thank you very much. I've been a long-standing shareholder of Exact Science, so thank you.
Thank you, Jeffrey. I think you said that you've been a really long-standing shareholder since it was in the pennies. So good for you. Good for you. Thank you at all of our sponsors, and thank you and hello to you who are watching on the stream. I am very excited to have Kevin Conroy here today. He's the Chief Executive Officer, the President and Chairman of the Board of Exact Sciences. Kevin became CEO 11 years ago and has been part of the team that transformed Exact Sciences into one of the world's premier cancer diagnostic companies with more than 4,500 employees. Mr. Conroy has led Exact Sciences through the development, clinical trial, regulatory approval, and commercialization of its non-invasive colorectal cancer screening test, Cologuard. This culminated with Cologuard becoming the first medical diagnostic to receive simultaneous FDA approval and national Medicare coverage. In 2019, Exact Sciences' acquisition of Genomic Health, Inc. united 2 of the industry's strongest brands, Cologuard and Econotype DX, and established the company's position as the global leader in advanced cancer diagnostics. Before joining Exact Sciences, Conroy served as CEO and president of Third Wave Technologies, a molecular diagnostics company that developed a breakthrough cervical cancer screening test before being acquired by Hologic in 2008. He's also held leadership positions at GE Healthcare and practiced intellectual property law in private practice. Conroy currently serves as a director of Epizyme, Inc., an adaptive biotechnology corporation. He is active in the Wisconsin community and serves as director of the Greater Madison Chamber of Commerce on the University of Wisconsin-Madison's Chancellor's Advisory Council. He's also served as chair of United Way of Dane County's 2016 annual campaign and as a board member of Overture Center for the Arts. He's a native of Flint, Michigan. Mr. Conroy holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Electrical Engineering from Michigan State University and earned his Juris Doctorate from the University of Michigan Law School. Please welcome Kevin Conroy and Milwaukee Business Journal Editor and Chief Mark Kass.
Good morning, Kevin. Obviously, good morning, everybody. It's great to be back in person, isn't it? We're closer together than we've been. This year, we're still apart a little bit, but we're a lot closer than we've been.
I thank you, and I did not realize today was also going to be a shareholder meeting.
That's right. So anybody who's got complaints can go to the left side. No. Well, let's start this conversation with kind of what's in the news right now. And recently, you guys implemented a vaccine requirement. Kind of talk about how that happened and kind of the response so far to that from your employees.
Sure. Well, about 3 weeks ago, we had a meeting with 36 sales managers from all around the country, and we had a rule in place. If you weren't vaccinated, you had to be an adult and wear a mask. This was before the mask mandate came back in Dane County. And 2 people chose to not follow that rule, and one of them had COVID and exposed 34 other people who were in Madison from afar, leaving them in the situation not knowing whether they could travel back to their homes and get on planes, et cetera. And so we just made the decision right then, without much of a meeting, that we were just going to mandate vaccines. And our thinking was, we're a healthcare company. These vaccines are safe, and they're enormously safer than COVID. I was just talking with Bernie, and Bernie said in Florida, the average age of somebody admitted to one of their facilities in Florida is 40. What this Delta variant is not what we experienced a year ago. Hospitalizations are higher in the U.S. now than they were peak pandemic. So we just made the decision to do it. It's challenging because there are a lot of people that we really care about that we want to stay on the team who today aren't vaccinated. So they have until October 1st, and I'm pretty confident that we'll get to about 97% of the people who choose to get vaccinated.
Where are you at now?
We're probably around 80% now, but every day that probably goes up by another 50 people or so.
Okay, and kind of what's been the response from employees? Has it been acceptance? Has there been some anger? What's been the response?
Yeah, there's been a politicalization of this issue, and it really shouldn't be politicized. Vaccines have worked for 2,000 years. I mean, smallpox was eradicated because of vaccines, polio. Everybody should be vaccinated. There isn't anybody who should be worried about being vaccinated. That's the reality. And I think we come out of this a stronger company because I think that people are now understanding that they're doing something not for themselves so much, but for the people they work with, and a lot of whom are immunocompromised. And they're doing something for others in their community. And so I think we come through this, and it's a really positive thing that binds people together. I'm pretty confident of that.
Well, you're in healthcare, you're a healthcare executive, and I asked this question of a lot of healthcare executives I've talked to. Are you surprised at the response so far, kind of not seeing the numbers we thought we'd see in terms of vaccine? I mean, you've seen it with kind of what is your response, and kind of what do you think that's happened?
It probably goes back to this pandemic hitting during an election cycle when there were a lot of people who were angry about the economy being shut down, angry about schools being shut down, angry about wearing masks. Right. And so that there is anger against the government, and then the government comes in and says this vaccine is safe, even though it didn't go through the normal long-term clinical studies that vaccines do. So you take those two things and you put them together, and the political impetus here is the dangerous one. And the thing that worries me is now, is this going to spill over to all vaccines? Okay. Vaccines are safe. If you look back over the hundreds of years, the two biggest innovations in healthcare that have saved more lives, hundreds of millions of lives, are antibiotics and vaccines. And there isn't a close third in terms of things that have saved lives. If we as a society now only 50 or 60% are willing to get vaccinated, we've got some real issues. So hopefully the politics of this settle down and people look at this the way that I had one of our employees reach out by email and said, look, Kevin, I had a kidney transplant. I'll be on immunosuppressant drugs the rest of my life. And that means that if he gets vaccinated, his immune system doesn't work like our immune system. And he doesn't get the protection of the vaccine. So he's sitting out there worried about getting COVID. And the odds of him being severely impacted by COVID without an immune system is really high. So if you don't, do it for yourself, do it for Oscar, who you work next to, whose body can't fight off this horrible virus.
Let's talk about the company in terms of the impact this has had on the company from a pandemic standpoint, from an operations standpoint, from kind of how you've worked. I mean, you assume never expected something like this to happen. I mean, how did you respond, and kind of what's the impact been so far?
Well, let me go back and just give a brief description of what we do. So Exact Sciences develops tests for the early detection of cancer. Early cancer is highly treatable. Typically, 9 out of 10 people survive if diagnosed in stage 1 or stage 2. Typically, only 1 out of 10 people survive if diagnosed in stage 4. The idea with Cologuard was a colonoscopy has gotten about half of America screened, age now 45 and older, a little less than that. The FIT test is just not a very good way to get screened. And so we developed Cologuard, which looks for trace amounts of cancer DNA in a patient's stool sample. So you can get screened with a test that detects over 90% of cancers, that detects precancerous polyps in the privacy of your own home. Groundbreaking change. And that test got approved by the FDA in 2014, and now we've had over 6 million people screened with Cologuard. And all of those tests are manufactured here in Wisconsin, and all of those tests are run here in Wisconsin. So over 6 million people screened around the country here in Wisconsin. The second part of what we do is to serve people with early stage breast cancer. So there are probably people in this room who have been diagnosed with early stage breast cancer. Historically, most women got treated with chemotherapy, surgery and chemotherapy. The thing is that chemotherapy provides a benefit only to about 5% of people with early stage breast cancer. We didn't know who it benefited and who it didn't until about 15 years ago. A company, Genomic Health, looked at 13 different genes in tumor tissue and could tell definitively whether a patient would benefit from chemotherapy. And today, only about 20% of women diagnosed with early stage breast cancer go on to chemotherapy because of this test, Oncotype DX. It's for a subset, but about 80% of all of those early stage breast cancers. And so that is a business that is based in Northern California. It has become standard of care. And those are 2 of the tests that we have in market. Altogether, we have about 10 tests. And we are bringing more, and some really, we can talk about them. But as a company, that's what we do. When the pandemic hit, colon cancer screenings around the country dropped 90%. Then they started to come back. They're still down about 15 to 20% because fewer people are going into their primary care physician, because fewer people are, you have primary care physicians who are prioritizing bigger health issues that have been put off for the last year and a half. So we have a lot of work to do to get preventative medicine back to where it was before the pandemic. And the company really, I'm really proud of the way the company fought through those challenges. When all of a sudden you have 90% fewer tests being run and you have a team of people and a fixed amount of capital, you start to worry a little bit about when the end would come. But it was, one of the things that the team did was bring a COVID test up, because the state of Wisconsin is not served by and large by Quest and LabCorp, the 2 largest national labs. And so we didn't have the testing infrastructure to do the huge number of COVID tests that were required to help win the battle against COVID. And so the team brought up in our facilities a sufficient amount of capacity to do COVID testing in 3 weeks and got FDA emergency authorization. And we ended up providing about 80% of all COVID tests in the state of Wisconsin. And it was really a thing to see people work nights and weekends taking the equipment and moving it to a new, safe part of the facility that Findorf built. I see Rich Lynch here. And we had the capacity and the people, and we had to hire hundreds of people to meet that need. So we went from people having nothing to do to people having so much to do that, you know, people were working crazy hours. And we made it through it. And it's one of the things I'm really proud of is the way the team just rose to the occasion.
How many did you end up doing? How many tests did you then make and then produce?
Over 3 million tests.
Okay.
And you know, unfortunately, these tests are coming back. This is, the need is increasing, and we hope to get through this crunch because our Cologuard testing has come back, our Oncotype DX testing has come back, and now the truth is we're short on people. So if you know anybody who wants to work in a lab, have them call me. We'll get them to work next week.
It's a good question. I mean, this is one of the questions that I ask a lot of people in this room I've talked to about the employee shortage. How has it impacted you? How many employees are you short right now, and how are you trying to recruit people?
So we have 5,500 people across the country, 60% of them in Wisconsin. We have 1,000 job postings today. And this is the first time. We've always, over the last several years, we've always had about 500 job postings at any given time. And this is the first time that it has gotten a little bit more difficult to recruit people. And we paid really good wages. Everybody in the company gets equity in the company. Everybody gets a good health plan. Everybody is on a company bonus program. So really, if you know good people, send them our way.
What kinds of things are you trying? What new things are you trying in terms of recruiting people, and what's worked?
You know, one of the things that has worked in Dane County is our partnership with the Urban League. So I was on the board of the Urban League and have been a big fan and supporter of the Urban League since growing up in Flint. And we've had a program where we train people who have been underemployed during their lives, and we get them training in two main areas, in laboratory work and also customer service work. And it's a 6-week program, and we typically hire about 90% of the people who join that 6-week program. So we help with the training, we support the Urban League, and altogether we've hired about 150 people through those programs, and really just amazing team members who historically had part-time jobs, or they weren't in a job that provided health care, and they've just become incredibly valuable team members. So we do innovative things like that. That was our HR team. They just took the ball and ran with it and told me about it later, after it had gotten off the ground. And you know, and then we're just really aggressive in the region, trying to find people who want a career and want to progress, want a chance to become a supervisor or to go back to school, which we support. Wisconsin's a great place to build a company, and it's a great place, Dane County in particular, because you have the university and the technical college, Madison Area Technical College. So you have a constant flow of young people who want a career. And so we've really built the company with a lot of University of Wisconsin graduates, and hopefully Marquette graduates. I see Heidi here. So
Hoping to get more of those in.
I'm married to a Marquette graduate, so I have to
That's
say
big in
that.
their family, I hear too. But they talk about how the company ended up in Madison. We were talking about that before, how the company got to Madison, kind of your investment there, and kind of how it's grown there, because it's really grown in leaps and bounds.
So Exact Sciences has a very interesting company story. It goes all the way back to 1996. A guy named Stan Lapidus, who developed revolutionized pap smear testing. Just a brilliant guy. I was on the phone with Stan a week ago. He founded that company. It became very successful, and then he decided he wanted to solve colon cancer the same way. He thought you would do basically a fecal smear looking for colon cancer cells on a on a slide and look at it under a microscope. And very quickly he realized that wasn't the answer. The answer is that cancer is a disease of the DNA. Your DNA goes haywire. And if you can find those tiny little changes, I mean really tiny changes that cause the genes to go haywire from a stool sample, you could actually eradicate colon cancer by getting everybody screened in the privacy of their own home. That was his idea in 1996. And the company pursued it until I joined the company in 2009. So 13 years later, the company had tried and tried and tried and never could make the test work. It had gone public. It had launched a test. It just didn't work. And so there were 3 people left when I joined the company. It was based in Boston, and Sheila and I and our girls were in Madison. And I took the interview and went out and visited, and I said, ultimately, why are you pursuing this? The board of directors had 8 people. There were only 3 employees, and there were no scientists left.
I don't think that's a good ratio. I'm just saying. 8 to 3 for board employees is not a good ratio.
And I mean, only in America can this happen. So you couple science with an incredible, you know, when people talk about capitalism and they bash capitalism, only in America can you keep innovation like this alive for 13 years without making a profit. And then the board of directors said, we're not giving up. And they sent me to the Mayo Clinic, where I sat down with Dave Ahlquist, who for 20 years had been doing research in this area. And he had hard data showing the ability to detect. He had data showing 98% of colon cancers detected from stool samples by looking at a handful of DNA markers, these tiny little changes. And so I left that meeting and said, okay, I think I know what I'm going to be doing for the next several years. Well, that next several years has turned into 12. And so it was a partnership with Mayo Clinic, and we recruited a team of people, Manish Arora and Graham Lidgard and Dave Ahlquist from the Mayo Clinic, and we developed this test. And we had to raise, altogether, we've raised well over $2 billion, but we started by raising $9 million, and then we raised $14 million, and then we raised $30 million to keep funding this program until we got to FDA approval. And I'll never forget in that first meeting, Dave Ahlquist said, okay, so the first hour was spent talking about colon cancer, and this is the #2 cancer killer, and 50% of people aren't getting screened. He said, let's put that aside for a minute. Cancer will, 1 in 2 men in this room will be diagnosed with cancer, 1 in 3 women. And if you're under age 85, cancer is the #1 cause of death. But we don't screen people, we screen individual organs. We do breast cancer screening, cervical cancer screening, colon cancer screening. And Dave made the case, what we should do is 1 blood draw, all cancers. And I thought this was science fiction. And he just kept at it and at it. All through our partnership, Dave just kept at, we've got to develop a blood-based test. And right now, we are set to launch clinical trials next year on a simple blood draw that will detect certainly the top 16 deadliest cancers, but most likely dozens of cancers. We won't know how many cancers we find until we go out there and study a really large population. But it'll be 1 blood draw, the ability to detect all different cancers. Now, it's not going to pick up 90% of cancers, but a test that every other year you would get that would pick maybe 50% of cancers early, the early stage cancers. And this has already been shown, proof of concept, in a 10,000 patient study. A woman who signed up for the study, she just thought she was doing something good for society. Her name was Teresa, and she didn't know that she had stage 1 ovarian cancer. Well, you never find stage 1 ovarian cancer. It's just not found because it is so small, it's not symptomatic. They found stage 1 ovarian cancer, removed her ovaries, and she had a bad week, maybe a bad 2 weeks. But She's not going to die from ovarian cancer. She's not going to get sick from ovarian cancer. And that's the power of her blood test was positive. She got a PET CT scan, and she's going to celebrate birthdays and anniversaries.
Well, maybe talk more about that test, because I was going to talk about that later, but since you brought up kind of where it's at, kind of where the stage is at, when you hope for approval, and then when you hope all of us could actually have it.
It is through proof of concept. We are doing 2 more clinical studies at the end of this year, beginning of next year.
Okay.
And next year, we will start an 80,000 patient prospective clinical trial. We hope and plan for Ascension to be a part of that clinical trial. And that clinical trial will take a couple of years. We may make the test available as what's called a lab-developed test before that in a limited way to help us collect more data. So if a patient's willing to sign up for a registry, provide data in exchange for getting the testing, allowing us to study this more, that test may be available as early as next year. And given that cancer is the number 1 killer of people under the age of 85, I encourage you ultimately to look at these new technologies and take control of your own health, because early detection does more. Nobody wants to be diagnosed with late-stage cancer. If you're going to be diagnosed with cancer, hope that it's early stage when frequently surgery alone is curative.
Let's talk about some of your existing products and kind of how you market them and how you approach them. You have fun ads. I assume that's not on purpose because it's not a fun topic. So, how did you approach those, and kind of what's been the response to those? And
I'll never forget, Mark, when we had our marketing team came in and said, okay, here are the different concepts for a television ad. And I thought they were going to go with colon cancer's the number 2 cancer killer, you'd survive, that whole story.
Right.
No, they didn't. They came in with this talking box. And I looked at my friend Manish Arora, our Chief Operating Officer, and I said, Manish, have you taken leave of your senses? And then he said, let me show you the market research. And Manish is really a brilliant guy and a marketing wizard. And he showed the focus group data. And if you talk to people about dying from colon cancer, the last thing they're going to do is get screened. They just freeze with fear. But if you talk to them about the positives of early detection and a test that you can do in the privacy of your own home, it kind of unlocks a positive feeling in people and encourages them to get screened. And that's the story of what we call Little CG, which has been in hundreds of thousands of television ads over the last 6 years. And when we started running those ads, we saw a 10% increase weekly, 10 weeks in a row, in Cologuard uptake. So it took Cologuard from nobody knowing about it to now being a brand that most people know. Now the challenge is many primary care physicians still say, go get a colonoscopy. The truth is that it's really colonoscopy or Cologuard that is a choice that should be presented to people, because if you present people with a choice of colonoscopy or Cologuard, you pretty much double the percentage of people who get screened within a short period of time. Double. If you just give people choice. So that's the impetus of educating people on television and how we, but I thought it was insane. Thanks, Manish.
Which is why you obviously rely on him, right?
Correct.
For that. Talk about kind of the leadership thing over the past few years. You obviously never planned for what's happened over the past year and a half. How did you approach it as a leader? What was your approach with your employees? What was your messaging? What did you change?
We came together as a leadership team and pretty quickly put in place the things that so many people here did. And we just said, hey, look, number one, let's take care of each other. And number two, let's get people tested. So we always have 3 priorities. We lay them out every year. And we said, forget all of our priorities for the year. And let's just take care of each other. let's get people tested. And those became the new priorities. And the third was, let's save money. So the leadership team, everybody took a 30% pay cut. Many of the people on the leadership team went to zero pay because we didn't know, when we saw a 90% decline in testing, it was cash preservation mode. And we kept the team together. So we started with that and we just kept going back to that. And it built, a strong ethos that we are going to get through this. And then I think people felt great about being able to do a service to the state of Wisconsin. When we brought up that testing, that I think helped everybody. It also allowed us to test our employees daily if they wanted, weekly, certainly just as much testing as we needed to make sure we kept people safe. And as far as we know, knock on wood, we haven't had a single case of COVID transmission in the workplace. We ended up having a strong year. Cologuard testing came back. Our employee engagement survey scores went to all-time highs during that year. So it worked, and I'm very proud that the team pulled together the way that they did.
I mean, maybe some examples of some things you tried with your employees, new things you tried to kind of engage your employees.
Oh, God. You know, we knew that people were stressed financially, so we pulled together and people volunteered. We had a food bank. Like what you drove up, you put in your order, no questions asked. We gave a $1,000 bonus to everybody who was working, knowing again that people were stressed financially. We put in place a lot of programs to make sure that people were taken care of while they were at work. We had boxed lunches for everybody. We didn't want people to worry about going to the grocery store and figuring out lunch and all of that stuff. And just if you're coming into the office, you're going to be fully supported. And I think little things like that made a big difference. And we didn't lose a lot of people during that time period. Now I think the truth is that things are changing a little bit. I just saw our survey results from last week. And it's the first dip that I've seen in that level of employee engagement. I think it has a lot to do with the vaccine mandate. And that's a challenge. But I think those are the things as leaders, you look at these decisions and say, what is the right thing to do? Mm-hmm. Not what is the popular thing to do. If you manage your company or entity or organization based on employee popularity, you probably won't get too far. So, you just keep at it. But I think it starts with this obsessive focus on patients. That's why we come into work every day. And you can't forget that. And secondly, an obsessive focus on your front line. So the people who are doing the work that really makes the difference. So our lab workers, our customer care workers, who are doing the hard work. It's not about the leadership team. It's not about all the directors and managers in the company. You have to obsess about taking care of the front line. And I think that's how you really grow as a leader. Focus on that, and everything else takes care of itself.
You obviously had to have some of your employees in the office. I assume some weren't for a while. Kind of where are you at now in terms of remote work? And is that a thing of the future for you?
We're about half and half. So our office workers, by and large, are working from home, but not all of them. We encourage people to come into the office, and we have testing. And in Dane County now, we're wearing masks. In California, people are wearing masks when they're meeting. I think it's going to be a mix. We were planning on bringing people back in September. We've pushed that to October, and I think there's going to be a mix. I think it's essential ultimately for people to be in the office. I think for those interactions to occur that allow you to grow as leaders and people and to come up with new ideas. But we're not through this pandemic, and I think we'll sort through all of that once we come out of this and people are safe.
How has this recent surge impacted your company? Have you seen kind of reduction in tests
Yeah.
again? Are you seeing kind of what you saw 12 months ago? Or actually
It's rough out there. You know, Wisconsin is probably going to see, and Bernie and I were talking about this, there's no reason that Wisconsin isn't going to see what's going on in Florida and Texas and elsewhere, which is not pretty. And it is impacting us because as fewer people go into the doctor's office, fewer people are getting screened. And when people are getting screened, what we're seeing now is an uptick in late stage breast cancer, late stage colon cancer, late stage cervical cancer. I mean, cervical cancer is a disease that has been largely eradicated in America because of screening. And we're seeing an uptick in all those things. And this spike is just like the other ones. Fewer people are willing to go into the office, and that affects Exact Sciences. I'm not telling you anything new. We've said this on our earnings call. As long as there's COVID, it's going to impact us as a company. We try to focus on the long term, and the long term is just keep building a company that is going to be successful 5 years from now. If you do that and keep focused on the long term and take care of your frontline workers and obsess about your patients, you know, it's all going to work out. But, you know, I just wish everybody would get vaccinated so these nurses and doctors who are working in ICUs can get a break. I mean, this is, nurses are leading the profession in droves. So when people make the choice, you know, it's my body, I don't want to get vaccinated. Okay, great. But then don't go show up at the ICU. Don't do it. Because that's where you're going to end up. And if the average age is 40, you know, don't kid yourself saying I'm young and healthy. That's not going to protect you. And this variant is not the same disease that was occurring 18 months ago. I guess I'm kind of fired up about that.
That's all right. That's obviously, how have you seen the economy work for? I mean, obviously, you're concerned about what's going on. Kind of, what's your outlook for the rest of this year, and then what's your outlook for 22 for first the economy, and then for the company?
The economy obviously is coming back. Inflation is a concern. Wage inflation is clearly occurring, and that is something we've lived in an era for a long time here since the early 80s of low inflation, and that's something that has to concern us all. It concerns me that all of the people who left the workforce, you know, getting them back into the workforce. My brother owns and runs a pool and hot tub store in Flint, Michigan. And he didn't send people home. He kept selling hot tubs and pools and wood-burning fireplaces. And he said, Kevin, you know, if you sent my workers home and you put them on the couch for 2 months, they're not coming back. And I think that's the truth in America. For all the people who kept all of your teams together, you're finding that, you know, it's easier to keep people. But if you send people home, there's an impetus, do I really want to go back to what I was doing before? And I want to make sure that, you know, we do everything we can to keep investing in our people. And I think that's true. You know, we have two economies now. There's people who are high wage earners have done really well through this, and people who are low wage earners have been dramatically effective. They're hurting, they're still being impacted. And so as a business community, everything that we can do to invest in our frontline valuable workers is something that we're doing to benefit our country, I think.
What about from a standpoint of the company? What's your outlook for this year, and then your outlook for next year in terms of the major things?
Well, we're really, as we have talked about on our earnings calls, we're really positive about the direction of the company in the short term and the long term. Why we're so positive about the long term is we're bringing this multi-cancer screening test to people. We are also bringing a test that is going to change the way people who are treated for cancer are treated. It's called a test for minimum residual disease. So imagine being diagnosed with stage 2 colon cancer, and you get surgery and chemotherapy. And then afterwards, you get sent home and said, if you don't feel well, come on back. Because there isn't a really good test for recurrence. There's a protein test, it doesn't work. It works in about 40% of people. Well, by looking into a patient's blood, you can actually see whether that cancer has recurred 9 months sooner than a PET scan. And so in the future, in the very near future, you'll be able to treat somebody post-surgery. This test answers the question, did you get it all? And then if that test comes back, no, you didn't get it all, you can keep treating with chemotherapy or a different therapy. And if the test comes back, yeah, it appears we've got it all, you can get that test every 3 or 6 months, picking up cancer when it first starts to recur and go back into treatment. And this amazing technology is, again, this insight that cancer is a disease of the DNA. And if you can go into a patient's tumor and find mutations in the DNA that are unique to that tumor, and then look for those mutations in that person's blood, you change the world. And so we're bringing both a multi-cancer test and a minimum residual disease test to healthcare systems all across the country and all over the world. And so this is going to change cancer forever. Cancer has been treated mainly with surgery, chemotherapy, and now new drugs that target these changes in the genes, that actually work at a molecular level. There are tests now that guide you as a patient to a very particular type of drug that works on that tumor. And so we're probably in the second inning of a massive change in medicine due to the knowledge of the power of the human genome and the cancer genome. And so, we're leading the way there, and we invest hundreds of millions of dollars a year in research and development to continue to be the leader. Much of that is done here in Wisconsin. It's an amazing, amazing state to bring research scientists and onto the team and develop new, incredible products. I go back to our team at Third Wave Technologies. We had about 100 people. 60 of them work at Exact Sciences now. Most of the leadership of our research and development team here in Wisconsin came from Third Wave Technologies. They went from University of Wisconsin. Many of them grew up in farms, became biologists at University of Wisconsin or biochemists, came to work at Third Wave, came to Exact Sciences. And that's an incredible asset we have. So whatever you can do to support University of Wisconsin continuing to be a leader, and we don't invest enough in University of Wisconsin. It is almost criminal that we are not investing more in one of the most amazing universities on the planet in R&D. Top 10 in the country. It historically was top 2 or 3. Now it's slipped to 7 in terms of federally funded research dollars. We've got to keep investing there. It's a gem of this state, and we would not be here without it. We also need to work on getting more entrepreneurial capital into this state. A fund of funds would help do that. Carrie Tomey and she's been working for 2 years, days and night, to raise capital. I think you're going to launch a $50 million fund of funds, which helps seed small venture capital funds, which help seed companies like ours years ago. So anything that you can do as business leaders to support those efforts.
Expansion-wise in the state, you obviously have a significant presence here already. In terms of M&A, in terms of things that you're working on, will there be more invested here, and kind of what kind of growth are you expecting here in Wisconsin?
Well, we're building we have 2 labs in Dane County. We're building a 3rd lab. And each of these labs will employ, 1,500 people. And we'll just keep investing because it's a great place to hire people, train people, develop people, and who knows, maybe one of our labs will be here in Milwaukee. We've actually looked at that, and we know we want to go where the people are, and where we can continue to invest in people.
So is that an option to have one in Milwaukee at some point?
Well, it's not forefront right now,
Okay.
but it is one of the areas we're looking at. I'm always concerned about going to yet another location where you now are dispersing your leadership team that runs the labs, and it all comes back to that leadership. And so we will take a look at Wisconsin broadly, including southeastern Wisconsin.
I want to end with something for people in the room, and that's maybe one thing of advice of something you've learned over the past year. One advice for these leaders as they go back to their companies.
So I've spent a fair amount of time with John Burt from Trek Bicycles. And he thinks so deeply about leadership. They've built an incredible company, really an amazing top bike company in the world. And one of the things that we learned from John and his leadership team was how you communicate hard facts within a company. And we have gone to one piece of paper for all of our updates that lists all of the great progress that is being made. These are the good facts. The next, and maybe a really important part of the update, is the brutal facts. Like all of the stuff that people don't want to tell their bosses, that I don't want to share with my team members. The brutal facts in print. And then bottom is help needed. And that's the most important. What help do you need from your peer, from your boss, from your team? And that has really opened people to talking about the hard things. It encourages debate. So when you're facing challenges, even challenges that are your own fault, and we know as leaders, we all do things that are stupid. We don't know they're stupid until after we do them, and so John really helped us think through how do you communicate these in a way that people feel comfortable talking about the brutal facts. And this comes from Jim Collins, who talked about Admiral Stockdale, who was in a Hanoi prison for 7 years, and he survived not because he was always positive about the fact that he would get out. It was that he confronted the brutal reality that he was a prisoner. And he was optimistic that someday he would get out. The people who were just rosy about everything eventually lost faith. And so that may be more than anything in the last 18 months. I thank John for his time and willingness to share those ideas. And it's been transformative. Now you see people just willingly sharing, hey, look, this is going wrong, and can you help me?
Do that. All right, thank you very much.
Thanks, Mark. Very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Mark. What a great amount of information, great stories. I'm really excited about your new tests and the opportunity to participate in some of the studies. Some of you guys know that I was lucky enough to be able to be a participant in a cochlear implant study not long ago, and those are life-changing for people. So thank you, and if we have an opportunity to share that opportunity here, let us know. We'd be happy to help get you some people to be a part of that study. After hearing from Kevin about the incredible work they're doing, if you are interested in helping us highlight and encourage students who are engaged in STEM, or as we call it, STEAM, because we add the art, education, please let us know. We have our first Students in STEAM Awards program coming this fall. We're going to need sponsors to help tell the story of how valuable a career in the STEM fields can be, and we need, mostly, nominations of young people who are worthy of this honor. We're going to have a couple of more announcements and prizes to give away, but first I'd like to introduce Jenny Roanhouse, who's going to share some information with you about our special group subscriptions. Sorry, I didn't see you sneaking up behind me there.
Thank you, Kira, and good morning. You've heard the expression, news travels fast. Well, today, news travels even faster, and your response has to be the fastest. When you receive that afternoon newsletter from Kira LaFond and see an important headline written by one of Mark Kass's award-winning reporters, whether it's a story about a big client or a board member, a product idea, a possible recruit to add to your organization, or a story about your competition, You want to read and share that story with the rest of your team, and your team will want to read and share that story with you. 90% of our articles are now locked. Our Office Pass group subscription will unlock the locked articles so you can share them with your group, and you'll be able to respond before the other guy. You can set up groups from News in Milwaukee or from all of our 44 Business Journal markets. We have a video for you to watch, and thank you so much.
Welcome to your group subscription. We call it Office Pass. It's the simple, cost-effective way to grant your entire team access to local news and business intelligence. Now, let's recap your group subscription access. You have access to every article. Find news either on the homepage or in our industry navigation. Connecting with decision makers is easy. Just find them in our People on the Move section. Our digital edition and book of lists are perfect research and prospecting tools. Don't forget, always use the search function. All of these resources are now at your fingertips. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to your dedicated customer success manager. We're just a call away.
Thank you. Thank you, Jenny. Thank you to our sponsors, North Shore Bank, Delta Dental, Ascension, Wisconsin, Centivo Business Healthcare Group, and Molson Coors. Please take the cookies on your table from North Shore Bank. There's a toothbrush from Delta Dental. And also, normally we have 6-packs on your table, but we had a little oops with the 6-pack holders. So we have 3 12-packs. So if there's more than 3 of you guys at the table, we're just going to have you arm wrestle for them, but be careful. No. Maybe the youngest and the oldest, or the closest birthday, or there are some really handy dandy North Shore Bank bags at your table, and you can split them up. Whatever is happy, whatever works for you. Thank you again to our presenting Power Breakfast sponsor, North Shore Bank. One winner is going to receive 2 tickets to cheer on the Brew Crew Battle of the Chicago Cubs on Friday, September 17th. And that winner is Matt Matson of Strang. Yay, Matt. North Shore Bank is also giving a $150 North Shore Bank gift card, perfect to spend on back to school or a night out. And that is going to Heather Walker of New Resources. Yay, Heather. Delta Dental has an electric Oral-B toothbrush. Congratulations to Dave Steele. And finally, we have a few 4-packs of Summerfest tickets. Congratulations to Anton Cass from Bassett. Any relation to Mark? No? Okay. Jeff Neeson from Bolt. And see Tiffany at the registration table for those tickets. And don't forget about our upcoming events. We're going to be honoring some of the most awesome people, the healthcare champions, for a special virtual event on September 14th. We have room for one more sponsor, and of course we have tickets available. If your whole company would like to sponsor tickets for your team, we can do that as well. So just let us know if you'd like to participate with that event and help us honor these. You're gonna love hearing their stories. The Business Growing Milwaukee will be taking place in person at the Bradley Symphony Center on October 7th, so you'll get to see that beautiful facility. Tickets and more information are under the events section on the website. Everybody must register in advance for our events, just so we can do contact tracing and things like that if necessary. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Mark. Thank you to all of our sponsors. Let's stay well, stay healthy, and get back to work.